4 times. A stranger walked into my life. True home invasion, horror. My name is Alex. I'm 32 years old. And I need to tell you about 4 separate incidents that happened to me and people I know. 4 times when a stranger appeared at my door, or in my home, with intentions I still don't fully understand. 4 experiences that changed how I view safety trust and the concept of being secure in your own home. If you love true horror stories about home invasions, psychological terror, and the kind of real encounters that make you question whether your front door is actually enough to keep danger out, hit like and subscribe right now. Because these 4 stories will teach you that sometimes the most terrifying threats aren't dramatic or violent. Sometimes they're quiet. Sometimes they're methodical. Sometimes they're a stranger who appears completely normal on the surface, but something about them is fundamentally wrong in ways you can't quite explain. Story 1. The Whistler in my living room. It was a little under 2 years ago. Back then, I lived in a small 2-story townhouse and worked remotely from home. The place had a small kitchen and living room on the first floor, and 2 bedrooms on the second floor. One of those rooms I used as my office, where I spent most of my working hours. During this time, the unit connected to mine that I shared a wall with was vacant. Nobody lived there. Nobody had moved in over 3 months. I'd gotten used to the silence on that side of the wall. There were no sounds of footsteps above me, no televisions blaring through the shared wall, no indication that anyone was living on the other side. This particular night I was working pretty late. It was rainy and cloudy outside, the kind of weather that makes you want to stay inside and be productive. I didn't have much else to do, so I decided to use the extra time to get ahead on work stuff. I sat in the office on my laptop for a good few hours, just focused on getting through my workload. The house was quiet as usual, with only the soft sounds of the rain outside ticking against the roof and gutters. It was peaceful, actually. The kind of night where you could really focus and get things done. I think it was just about 8 o'clock in the evening when, between the quiet clicking of my keyboard, I heard a thump on the wall next to me. I looked over, sort of confused, and heard it again. This was on the shared wall with the vacant unit, so naturally it was kind of odd. I wasn't expecting to hear anything from over there. After a few seconds of thinking, I thought that it must have been the owner checking up on something. Maybe they were prepping the unit for a tour in the morning. Maybe they were getting it ready to show to potential renters. Regardless, I convinced myself it was nothing to worry about and continued working. Over the course of the next hour or so, I heard random sounds from the other unit. Creaks, thumps, various other similar sounds. But oddly, they were spread out. Like I'd hear one creak, then several minutes would pass before I'd hear anything else. The silence in between was almost worse than the noises themselves because I kept expecting to hear something. But then, at just about 9:30, I heard a door suddenly creak open and then pushed closed. This was louder than all the other sounds that I'd been hearing throughout the night, which made me feel kind of uneasy. It had been months since I had heard the sound of the other unit's door open and close, so I didn't actually know how loud or quiet it usually was. But this sounded intentional. This sounded like someone was deliberately opening and closing that door. After a minute, I decided to take a break and leave the office, heading downstairs, just to make sure everything was good with the other unit. I looked out the window next to the front door, seeing if maybe the owner's car was out there. But I didn't see anything. Nothing parked on the driveway or on the road. Also, while down there, I didn't hear a single noise from the other unit. I figured whoever it was must have already left, and so hopefully all the strange noises were done for the night. After checking out the door and double-checking that it was locked, I went right back upstairs to my office. I wasn't sure how much longer I really wanted to work for. At this point, I was feeling pretty tired and kind of just wanted to chill in bed for the rest of the night. But I told myself I would do 30 more minutes, just to finish what I was working on. I closed the door to my office, sat down at my desk, and got as much done as I could. During that 30-minute period, I never noticed any more of those sounds coming from the vacant units. Just the calm rain still trickling down outside against the windows. Finally, feeling good about the work I'd gotten done and feeling my eyelids getting heavy, I shut off my laptop and headed out of the office, turning off the hallway lights and going into my bedroom. I started getting myself ready for bed. I changed into comfortable clothes. I brushed my teeth. I was going through my normal bedtime routine. And then a sudden eerie and ominous sound echoed through the walls of the house. Someone was whistling, a slow, soft tune. Not aggressive, not loud, just present. Someone was in my house whistling a tune. I stood there silently listening for a few moments. I was in shock. I couldn't process what I was hearing and how out of nowhere it came from. There was no warning, no explanation, just the sound of someone whistling in my home. I quietly walked up to my bedroom door and cracked it open. As soon as I did, I could hear it much more clearly. It felt like it was too loud to be from the other unit or even outside. This was coming from inside my house. Definitely inside my house. Feeling really unsettled, I started walking down the hallway as the whistling persisted, filling the quiet halls of the house with the eerie tune. My heart was pounding in my chest. Every step I took felt loud. Every breath felt heavy. I made my way down the stairs and moved toward the back of the house where I could clearly hear the sound coming from. My hands were shaking. My mouth was dry. I peered around the corner into the living room. In the dark, unlit room, a man was sitting in my chair facing the other way toward the black television screen, continuing to whistle as he stared into the pitch-black room and barely moved. I could only see the general outline of him in the darkness. But his hand that was on the armrest looked like it had something in it. A small object. Something that looked like a handgun. I knew he had to have known I was inside. He probably heard me sneaking downstairs, but he never looked back. He just sat there, whistling, staring at the blank television screen. Completely still except for the movement of his lips as he continued that eerie tune. It was incredibly disturbing. The most disturbing thing I'd ever experienced in my life. I didn't know whether to say something or try to sneak away. Why was he even here? How did he even get in? What did he want? What was he planning to do? My heart was beating faster and faster. I could feel it pounding in my throat. I could feel sweat on my palms. Before I could think more about it, I made the sudden decision to run out of the house. I swung open the front door, still hearing the man continue whistling as I ran away into the rainy night. I only looked back once and didn't see him follow, but I did notice the door to the other unit was wide open. He must have come through there. He must have gotten in through the vacant townhouse next to mine. I got to the end of the road and called for help immediately. When police got there, they could hear from outside that same eerie tune being whistled from inside my house. The officers approached carefully, going down to the living room and finding the man in the exact same position, just sitting there, just whistling. They said he turned his head slightly to look at them, giving a short, crooked smile, then dropping his gun and letting them arrest him without resistance. He basically spoke nothing of what he was doing, or had planned to do, or why he was there. Complete silence, complete refusal to explain himself. Some of the officers I talked to thought he might have been trying to get arrested for some reason. But strangely, there's no information on the guy. No matching fingerprints or identification of any kind. And without him being cooperative, they had no way to find out who he really was, or if he had any kind of mental illness that could be behind all of it. I don't know what other ways that night could have gone down, but even thinking about other possibilities makes me uneasy. What if I'd gone to bed without checking? What if I'd confronted him instead of running? What would have happened then? Every once in a while, though, I still hear that same eerie tune being whistled in the middle of my dreams, making me wake up in a panic, thinking he could be back. Story 2. The Intruder. In the storm. I was 16 years old when this happened. I lived in a small home with my parents at the time, sort of on the outskirts of the city. It was in a smaller wooded neighborhood about an hour outside of the main city area where both of my parents worked. This was on a regular weekday. It was pretty cloudy and rainy all day, and everyone was talking about this big storm that was supposedly rolling in later tonight. I didn't care too much as long as I didn't have to walk home in it. Thankfully, the storm waited until school was out and for me to get home before the rain started picking up. Usually these storms are over-exaggerated. People talk them up and then they're not that bad. But as I watched television in the living room with the windows open, the clouds got darker and darker, and then the rain got a lot worse. But honestly, the most unsettling thing was the wind. Our small, old, and basically wooden house was creaking and swaying as the wind slammed against it and rain crashed against the roof. The whole structure felt like it was moving. The windows rattled, the doors shook. The house seemed like it could blow away at any moment. Regardless, I was sure everything was good and kind of just listened to the storm as I watched television and waited for my parents to get home. At about 5:30, though, my phone alarm suddenly screamed at me about a flash flood warning. The weather alert was urgent. It was serious. Not too much later, my mom called. She said a bunch of the roads on the way home were apparently flooded over and that it was too dangerous for them to drive in, so they would have to wait it out. They were going to stay in the city until the roads cleared. I said I was good here, and the house seemed to be holding up, so it wasn't a big deal. I told her I would be fine. I told her not to worry about me. Now, knowing that my parents were stuck in the city and I wouldn't be coming home for hours, I got up and found something to eat in the kitchen. As I waited for my meal to heat up in the microwave, I thought I heard something that sounded like a knock, like something knocking on wood. It was so muffled by all the rain and wind that it was hard to tell, and I thought if it was anything, it was probably just something the wind was smacking against the house. So I ignored it. I grabbed my food and moved back over to the couch to watch television. But before I could even start eating, I heard it again. This time, it kind of freaked me out because it sounded like it was at the front door, which was pretty much right next to me. And it was the exact same knocking pattern as the one I thought I'd heard when I was in the kitchen. Obviously, this made me think it had to be a person, but outside in this storm, that really didn't make any sense. Nobody would be out in this weather unless they had to be. I was too scared for a minute to even check out the door. So I kind of just sat frozen on the couch and waited for something to happen. But when nothing did, I finally got up and went over to check out the door. I walked up to the door and looked out the peephole. It was mostly fogged over. All I could see were the blurry shapes of heavy rain pouring down. I looked out there for a while, making sure I didn't see any figures move or something. But with no signs of anything, I felt safe opening the door. At first, I was relieved. Nobody was there. It was just the monstrous storm outside. But then I noticed something weird. In the mud, coming up to the porch, there were footsteps. I couldn't actually make out the shoe print or anything, but it was clear by the repeating pattern through the mud that they were definitely footsteps. Fresh footsteps. And given the weather, they had to be recent to not have been washed away already. I felt a chill run through my body before I abruptly closed the door and locked it. I was really freaked out and really didn't know what to do. The rational side of me wanted to call my parents, or maybe even the police, because this was really strange. Someone had been standing on my porch in the middle of a massive storm. Someone had knocked on my door. Someone was out there. But the other side of me didn't want to worry anyone over something that was hopefully nothing. I mean, they weren't on the porch anymore, so they must have already left. At least that was my thought process. I stayed more alert, but refrained from calling anyone yet. I told myself if I saw or heard anything else, though I would call 911 immediately. I went back to the couch and ate my dinner, keeping the television volume a bit lower so I could listen to the storm and hear if anything else happened. Honestly, I don't remember much else from that part of the night, because at some point I just laid down and passed out waiting for my parents to get home. The exhaustion from being on high alert combined with the stress must have been too much. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't sure why I'd woken up, but the whole house was dark and the storm was just as loud as it was earlier. Maybe even louder. I knew a while had passed, though, and I was curious how I had been able to sleep so long without my parents coming home and waking me up. I picked up my phone and checked the time, but immediately saw I had multiple missed calls and unopened texts from my parents. They were just asking if I was okay and saying the roads were still too bad to drive in, and they had to get a hotel in the city for the night. I rubbed my eyes and sat up, not really processing any of the texts I read and just trying to wake up still. And then I heard probably the most terrifying sound I could have heard in that moment. It was a single footstep on the wooden floor right above me. Not something hitting the house from the outside, not wind making the house creak or groan. It was unmistakably a footstep inside the house. Specifically in my bedroom, which was the room directly above me. My heart started racing immediately. All of my drowsiness disappeared in an instant. I listened for another few seconds. There it was again. Another footstep. Then another. I followed the sound of the footsteps staring at the ceiling as they slowly moved through my room. Whoever was up there was walking deliberately, slowly, like they were searching for something or someone. Then they started going toward the door into the upstairs hallway. I knew I had to act fast. I turned my phone on silent and quietly ran into the small downstairs bathroom in the main hallway, keeping the lights off and carefully closing the door behind me and locking it. I don't think they heard me. I opened my phone and turned the brightness on the lowest setting as I called 911. It was pitch black in there, aside from the dim phone screen. Once I saw that the call timer had started, meaning an operator answered, I whispered my name, my address, and what was happening, then went back to staying quiet while keeping the call going. I was afraid to even put my phone on the quietest volume to let me hear the operator, especially as I began hearing the footsteps making their way down the stairs. The low thumps slowly moved through the hallway, rain and wind filling the sound between each step. They walked right past the bathroom door. I held my breath. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. They kept on until they got to the kitchen. And then a few seconds passed as I waited for the next footstep, and then a few more seconds passed. Before I knew it, I was just waiting for any more sounds or for them to move, but I didn't hear anything. Several long, agonizing minutes passed until a sudden bang at the front door sounded and police called out. I ran out of the bathroom and opened the door, but it was apparent by the lack of any other sounds inside the house that the intruder was gone. The sliding back door was cracked open, leaving the eerie evidence of their absence. Likely, the sound of them breaking inside was drowned out by the heavy storm, keeping me asleep. However, that could actually be the reason that I'm still here today. Whoever the intruder was seemed to only go through the hallway upstairs and into my bedroom. So me staying asleep on the couch and not making myself known was probably for the best. If I had confronted them, if I had gone upstairs, if I had tried to stop them, who knows what would have happened. Disturbingly, though, it seems clear that they were looking for me. What's really unnerving to think about even today, years later, is that I never saw the person. So I literally know nothing about them, whether they're a man or woman, teenager or adult, someone I knew or someone I didn't know, or worse, someone that I didn't know, but that knew me. Story 3. The man looking for his dog. I live alone in a pretty quiet, cozy neighborhood in a suburban town outside of a small city. I'd been there for several years and really had no issues with it. I knew most of my neighbors and felt like our town was just really quiet and calm. Nothing much ever happened, and I was able to just live my life in peace. This was in the middle of spring. I'd gotten out of work after a long 12-hour shift, driving home in the dark around 9 o'clock in the evening. The roads were empty, and the neighborhood was still in darkness, as most people had been hunkered down inside from the pouring rain for the past several days now. I pulled into my home and went inside, warming up some leftovers in the oven and resting on the couch as I settled in for the night. The whole day had been exhausting. I just wanted to relax. Only 10 minutes or so after I'd gotten home, though, there was a rather loud knock at the front door. I was really put off by it, unsure who it could be or what it could be for. It was late. I wasn't expecting anyone. But I got up and saw a man standing on my porch. He had a black rain jacket on and looked completely drenched from the rain. His hair was wet and plastered against his head. His clothes were soaked through. I opened the door slightly, keeping the chain lock attached. "Can I help you with something?" I asked carefully. The man looked at me for a moment. His eyes were droopy, like he was very tired, and his face was stiff and motionless. He looked a bit older than me, maybe in his early 30s, with a dark beard and longish brown hair soaked by the rain. Finally, he answered, speaking slowly and without much emotion, explaining that his dog jumped his fence and he wanted to know if I'd seen it. I said, "No, that I haven't seen anything." He nodded in an understanding way, but his eyes wandered past me and into my house as he slowly turned away and walked off the porch. Something about the way he looked inside my home didn't sit right with me. It felt deliberate. It felt like he was taking mental notes of what he could see. I closed the door and locked it immediately. I thought the guy was kind of weird, but maybe he was just really tired and frustrated, especially with all this happening at night and in rainy weather. I hoped he would find his dog soon, though. And aside from that, I went back to the couch and tried to forget about it. I want to say I was sitting there watching television for maybe 15 minutes before there was a sudden knock at the front door again. Immediately, I was sure it was the same guy, but I had no idea why he would come back. I got up very confused and sort of concerned as well. Sure enough, when I looked out, I saw the same guy standing behind the door. I opened it, and this time I wasn't quite as friendly. I just straight up asked him what he wanted. He had that same cold look as before. The man pointed toward the side of my house and said he saw his dog run into my backyard and asked if he could go look around back there. The way he said it was kind of strange, though. I'm not sure how to explain it, but yeah, something was clearly not right. His tone was off. His demeanor had changed. there was something predatory about how he was speaking to me. To get him off my back, and in case he was telling the truth, I said, "Sure, you could go back there and look around." He said, "Thank you." But at the same time as I was starting to close the door, he took a step forward, almost like he thought I was going to let him inside to lead him through the house to my back door. I just continued closing the door there. I'm not sure why he would have thought that when he could easily just walk around the house into my backyard. That was the first real red flag. That sudden movement forward, that expectation that I would invite him inside. I looked out to make sure he left, and he did, going around to the side of my house. After all of that, though, I wasn't too comfortable with the guy just wandering around my property. So I went to the kitchen where I could watch out the back door. I didn't stare at him through the door or anything, but I cleaned up some stuff on the counters while occasionally looking back at what he was up to. Every time I looked, it seemed like he was just walking around the perimeter of the yard like he was genuinely looking for a dog. But then one time I looked back, and his face was right behind the glass, looking directly in at me. It literally made me jump. My heart nearly stopped. I yelled through the glass, asking what he wanted. He called out, asking if his dog was inside my house. What the hell was wrong with this guy? First, he claims the dog jumped the fence. Now he's asking if the dog is inside my house. His story doesn't add up at all. I sternly said no, clearly showing that I was getting impatient with him. But the man kept asking, wanting me to let him in the house to look around for his dog. He would bang on the door every time I wouldn't answer. The banging was getting harder, more aggressive. I could see it in his face that he was getting unnervingly angry at the fact that I wouldn't let him in. It was getting kind of horrifying. His eyes had changed. They had gone from tired and droopy to something darker, something more sinister. As he kept hitting the door and yelling at me, I called the police. Only then, once he saw me take my phone out, did he finally stop and leave, which only made it more suspicious as to what he was truly up to. Police came and took a report from me of what happened and what he looked like and all that sort of stuff, but that's where it was left at. There wasn't much they could do right then and there. However, unfortunately, a week later there was an incident really similar to mine. It's unclear if he forced his way in or was just allowed inside by the victims, but the story was almost exactly the same as what happened to me. A man came knocking on their door looking for his dog, only for it to take an awful turn. When I heard about that incident, I realized how lucky I'd been. Had I listened to him? Had I been any more willing to help? Had I invited him inside or let him stay in my backyard longer? I could have suffered a similar fate to those other people. What these experiences taught me. These 4 incidents happened at different times in my life and in the lives of people I know. Some of them happened to me directly. Some of them happened to others, but showed me patterns I needed to recognize. The first incident taught me that danger doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it comes quietly. Sometimes it sits in your living room and whistles a tune while waiting for you to come down the stairs. Sometimes the scariest moments are the ones where you see something in the darkness and realize that someone has been watching you in your own home. The second incident taught me that being young and alone doesn't make you invincible. It makes you vulnerable. Someone broke into my house knowing my parents weren't home. Someone walked through my bedroom looking for me. I was lucky to have been asleep. I was lucky that they didn't find me. The third incident taught me to listen to my instincts. That man's story didn't add up. His behavior was off. His desperation to get inside my home was real. And when I trusted my gut and called the police, it potentially saved my life. All of these stories share one common thread. All of these predators were testing boundaries. They were seeing what they could get away with. They were looking for victims who would be compliant, who would be trusting, who would let their guard down. The scariest part about all of this is that I don't know what would have happened if any of these situations had gone differently. I don't know what their intentions were. I don't know what they had planned, but I know that I survived because I paid attention, because I trusted my instincts, because I locked my doors, because I called for help. Not everyone is that lucky. These are 4 times when I or people I know came face to face with danger. And I share them with you, hoping that maybe, just maybe, you'll be more careful. Maybe you'll lock your doors. Maybe you'll trust that uncomfortable feeling you get when something doesn't seem right. Because your instincts exist for a reason, and danger is always closer than you think.